So today I want to give a testimonial. It's testimony time. I um I thought about today when I was in church how there was a lady who really was in need, and my church is a church where miracles happen all the time. Okay, it's a place we call it the healing place for the walking wounded. Okay, it's called Holy Ground Tabernacle Church of Deliverance. So if you need a healing, you can tune in to Holy Ground because we're live on Facebook on Sundays, 8 a.m. Or if you're in the local area of Newport News, Virginia, you can come on down to where we are. All the information of the location is on the website. But I'm here because when the woman came in, she really needed a miracle. Okay. And when we do testimonies in our church, usually it's on Mondays after we do Monday night prayer. So that's when we do testimonies. Today, she came in and she needed a miracle. Now, I didn't see, I was sitting far enough in the back that I could not see exactly what her miracle was that she needed. And I'm not concentrating on when people come to the front and when they ask for stuff like that. I was just enjoying the service, praying, sitting on my row, thinking about how good the service was. And it was really, really good. I heard my leader, my chief apostle. She said, where is Sherelle? And I raised my hand. She said, oh, there she is. And she began to give my testimony to this lady for encouragement. And the testimony that she gave was a testimony that happened years ago. I'm talking, I feel like right now it would have been at least 17 to 20 years ago, but it was a long time ago. And after she was done giving the testimony, I sat there and I thought to myself, the testimony happened years ago, but even today it's still good. It was good enough to help somebody else who needed it at this moment. So since it helped that person, I know it can help you. Whoever this is for, whoever hears this today, I want to give my testimony and I'm praying that it will help you. Okay? So here it is. Years ago, I had developed a lump on the back of my head. It was on this side of my head. And the lump was, I always hear my chief apostle say the size of a goose egg, but I'm going to tell you, I don't know what a goose egg is in size, so I can't compare it to that. So I'm going to say, for me, it was the size of a golf ball. And that was just the part that stuck out, the part that you could feel. And it feels, it, at first you think, or I thought, it came overnight, but it didn't. Okay. I had got my hair braided. I hadn't had my hair braided in years. I don't usually get my hair braided. That's way before I had locks. Okay. But I had my hair braided by a young lady, a neighbor friend or a neighbor cousin. So she was in my neighbor, her cousin braided my hair. Okay. And I bought the hair. And I sat down and I let her braid my hair. She braided my hair really, really, really tight. And when I say tight, it was like an unnecessary tight. Okay. There's a difference between being a tight braid and the way she braided my hair. It was excruciatingly tight. I don't know why she made it that tight, but I really didn't know this young lady. And, um, I was really giving her a chance and giving her a try. And she wasn't expensive, so I didn't think nothing of it. About a week into having those braids in my head, I was getting headaches on that side, on one side here, and it hurt for a while. And I had gone, I needed to go to I had a function that I had to go to for a week, so I wasn't home. Even if I wanted to take out my braids, I was not home. I was gone for that week. Okay, so it hurt so bad that after I was finished with the function, it was a week later. And once I finished, I came home. I said, I can't keep these braids in any longer. And I took the braids out of my head. And that night, I really didn't think nothing of it. I just felt relief from the pressure of the braids. Okay. Next morning when I woke up, I had a lump on my head. It was huge. Like I said, it was really, really huge. And I was like, oh my God. And I had to go to work. I worked the 3 to 11 shifts. I worked the evening shift. And I went to work. I can't remember exactly how I had my hair, but as I was at work, my coworker, one of my, I was relieving another nurse, and I told her about how my head felt, my headache, and how bad it was, and she said, "Oh my God," she said, "You have a lump on your head." And as because I couldn't really see it, she was trying to wipe it and kind of clean it, just to get a better view of it. And as she wiped my head, my hair began to fall out. She was like, "Oh my God, Sherelle, your hair is falling out." I was like, "What?" So as you can imagine, I'm sitting at work. I'm trying to concentrate on what I need to do there, and my hair is falling out, and my head is hurting. So by the end of the shift, I had handfuls of hair falling out of my head, and I was in severe pain. I went home later on. I couldn't lay down. I had to sit up. It was so bad and so excruciating. The pain that I felt was not just here, it went all down my neck. So, all along here, I could feel the pain, and I'm losing my hair, and I got a lump on my head. So, I was like, oh God, what am I going to do? So, the next day came, and the lump got bigger. It was getting bigger by the day. And the bigger it got, the more hair I lost. So I ended up having to put my hair, make a ponytail and make it all come this way so that nobody would see my lump. I even started wearing a hat um, to cover my head. I was at work and I had like a kind of a knit cap on my head. And my manager came to me and she was like, "You can't have a hat on your head. You're at work. You're indoors. You can't have a hat." And I was like, "I have to have a hat because I have a lump on my head and I don't want anybody to see it." And then when she saw the lump, she was like, "Okay, you can just, keep the hat on." Now, I don't know how bad this lump looked, but everybody who saw it, it began to bother them. Like when I told my manager, she was immediate like, "Oh, okay." And then I had a friend or someone who, I won't say I thought they were a friend, but everybody, you can't show them when you have a problem because everybody can't take your situation and your problems. Okay. So this person, they were like, it can't be that bad. And when I lifted up my hat to show them, they started screaming. They literally started screaming and walking away. So you can imagine how embarrassed I was, right? How sad I felt that somebody who, I confided in confidence is now screaming, moving away from me. So I felt very sad. I felt um, concerned. I didn't know if my hair was ever going to come back. I didn't know what was happening to me. So I went to the doctor and I went in. You know how they ask you, you know how they do. Why are you here? And I had to fill out this paper, and the paper asked for what's your reason for being here at the clinic. And I put down I had a lump in my head. And so then I think they took me back, they did my vitals, and they asked me the question, why am I here? I said, I have a lump in my head and I need to see a doctor about it. The nurse looked at me and she was like, you have a lump in your head? And I said, yeah, I got a lump in my head. And so I showed her the lump and she stopped talking. It was like, oh, okay. And so I sat and waited for the doctor. When the doctor came into the room, he said, um, why are you here? And I explained it to him and showed him. He immediately went from thinking, I guess, that I was just here for something small and unnecessary to trying to figure out if this lump was a part of my skull or a part of my scalp or a part of just a movable piece underneath the skin in my head. So he was moving it around and doing all kinds of things, and I began to feel really, really bad. Really, really bad. Really bad. Very sad. I was in pain, I was hurting, and I had somebody treating me, I felt like you really don't see me and don't I already feel bad. Okay. You know how it is when you feel bad when you're going through something. You don't need somebody to make you feel worse. And what he was doing, and I find this sometimes when people look at me, especially African American women, they don't think we should be in pain. They don't think that we are hurting. Just because we're not screaming out or hollering out, they don't think that we're really in pain. But when he did what he did to my head, I was truly, truly in pain. Okay. Anyway, so he said, after he did all of that in his exam, he said, I'm not going to be able to help you here. I don't know if the lump that's on your head is uh, is it attached to your skull? I don't know. And I think he might have stuck a needle in there. Let me just tell you this part. The lump was solid. It was not liquid. It was not a blister or blistering in any way. I don't think it was discolored. It was just huge and it stuck out of my head and it looked unusual. So I had to walk around. He wanted me to go place orders for me to go to get x-rays and, MRI, whatever. And so at this point, I walked around waiting for my appointment for a long time. I would say about 2 months, I had this lump on my head. And it was just so embarrassing. It was so horrible. I walked around with hats. I walked around trying to hide. I didn't go in public if I didn't have to, except for work and home and grocery store. But I kept myself hid for a long time. While I was at home, I couldn't lay down. I had to sleep sitting up. And there were some sleepless nights I had, all because of a lump on my head. But more than that, I'll say this. At that time in my life, I think I was living in a state of defiance and disobedience. Okay. I was doing my own thing. And sometimes you can be disobedient to God. I was reminded today when when I heard the word, go forth, I was reminded that, just do what God tells you to do. you know and it doesn't always mean that you walking around. I'm not walking around doing things that, I'm not doing drugs, doing fornication, doing all these big things that you would think. But sometimes it's the little things that get you in trouble. Sometimes it is you thinking that you know everything that gets you in trouble. Sometimes it's you thinking you know more than everybody else around you that gets you in trouble. Okay. So I was in trouble and I needed God. But the lump on my head made me re examine myself and re examine, who I was, what's going on. And I knew that I needed God more than I needed anything else. Okay. I think even my kids at the time, they were very concerned for my health, concerned about what was going on with me. I didn't think I was going to die. Certainly, I didn't think it was cancerous or anything like that because I knew the why. I think I had an allergic reaction to whatever the girl, the synthetic hair that was in my head. But more than that, I chose the wrong person to do my hair. And another lesson that I learned, and I'll tell you, you can't let everybody do your hair. A cheaper price is not worth the pain and the torment that would happen to you. Cheaper hair is not worth torment and pain that you could have. If you're allergic to something, know your allergies, know what to do. Just speaking as a nurse. Anyway, back to the story. So I dealt with this for a while, and I was coming to church one day. I never stopped coming to church, never stopped believing God, never stopped talking to God, even with this lump on my head. Okay. So, and I was in church and I was in service, and I needed to repent for the things that I did. The part that my leader doesn't tell people, because nobody could hear What she was saying before she prayed for the lump was that I needed to get it together. I needed to repent. I needed to stay focused. I needed to not be disobedient. She leaves that part out. But I say, I know I was wrong. And once I repented, once I asked God to forgive me, once I shifted my mind to where it needed to be, that's when I got my healing. That's how I feel. I really got my healing. So what happened was she laid hands on me, right on my lump, because I had it covered with something, but she laid her hand, and immediately I could feel something running down my neck. Now, mind you, this thing was solid, but liquid was coming out of a solid. And for those of you guys that know, you scientific people, you don't usually get liquid out of a solid. I mean, unless it's, ice turning into water. I'm not talking about that. But something that was and it wasn't a blister, it wasn't a filled blister thing. It was literally a solid mass on my head. But and I know it was solid because when the doctor stuck a needle in there, nothing came out. So it was solid and they moved it around. But back to my deliverance. I She laid hands, and then something began to drip down my neck. And I still had a lump, but I could feel something dripping down my neck. And lo and behold, on my way home, when I got home, I just believed that God healed me. When I got home, the lump got smaller and smaller and smaller, and it was just draining. It was draining so much. I, put gauze up there, and I was wiping and I think I had a towel around my neck because it was still draining. But the end result is that God healed me, miraculously healed me. I never had surgery. I never had to go to another specialist or doctor, but he healed me. He healed me of my infirmities. And I would encourage you. I'm just telling this testimony because I know somebody needs to hear it. Okay? Just like that lady needed to hear it today, somebody needs to hear it. So even though the testimony is years and years old, it is still working today. Okay? But that's no different than the books in the Bible and the testimonies that they have in the Bible. Those stories are old. What are they, over 2,000 years old? Some of the stories, but yet they still work. They still are. Daniel is still, when he was in the lion's den, he was saved miraculously. The three Hebrew boys was in the fire, saved miraculously. Moses and the Israelites crossed the Red Sea on dry land. It's still it's still a testimony. And God is still in the miracle working business. So I just wanted to tell you, I pray that this helps you. I pray that it will shift your mindset to what God can do. And I pray that you get the deliverance that you need in Jesus' name. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.